Welcome to Here's What I Learned. I'm your host, Jackie Hayes. I'm a certified online business manager and launch strategist for coaches craving a greater hustle-free impact. On this podcast, my guests and I pull back the curtain on running a successful online coaching business. So sit back, take notes, and enjoy. Today, I'm talking with Nicole Magelssen. Nicole is the founder and CEO of Alpine Virtual. Having been a virtual assistant for 11 years, Nicole created Alpine to bridge the gap between quality-vetted virtual assistants and business owners looking for help. She lives in Denver, Colorado with her husband and 2 sons. Nicole, can you tell me what it is about what you do that makes you excited to wake up every day and do it all over again?
Sure. I am obsessed with helping online business owners have the life and the business that they've dreamed of having. Our motto is do what you love and we'll do the rest. So I love helping business owners be able to do what they love while having experienced help that gets rid of all the tasks that drag them down and make them feel like they're constantly juggling work. Being able to do that for business owners it's my passion and it's what I love doing.
How did you become an agency owner?
By accident. So I was a virtual assistant for 11 years. And around the time of COVID, really started bringing on more and more clients than I could handle. And so I brought on 1 support member and then 2. And then within a matter of months, we had multiple support members. And at that point, I realized I was an agency. And then we started really building an agency model from there. So it wasn't at all what I intended to do. It just happened.
I kind of think a lot of people who have their own business, that's basically what happened.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I was not at all the person that says, when I was 5, I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. It's just what happened to me.
Then when people come to you and they say, I need a VA, well, first off, let's start before they even realize they need a VA. When should people start considering bringing on a virtual assistant?
So I think by the time you're thinking about bringing on a virtual assistant, you've probably already needed one. And it really, it does vary by business and what you're doing. I'm not going to say that absolutely every person who has a business should have a virtual assistant. But if your strong suit is admin work and you're not great at marketing, you might want to consider marketing support. Or if you're a creative and you just feel like everything is disorganized and you're losing leads or processes aren't working well, you might want to consider an admin VA. There are a lot of different types of VAs. I don't think for any one person this is the right time to bring a VA onto your team. It is just it's just different. It differentiates. It's just different for every business and every entrepreneur and what they feel comfortable with and what their capacity is. Some people have a massive capacity while others prefer to keep it a smaller business while they're, doing what they love to do during the day. I wish I had this is when you need to bring a VA onto your team. But I do recommend that if you are thinking about bringing on a VA to do a time study, that just it's a little monotonous, but all day, every day for a week, track every single task that you're doing and just see how much time you're allocating to tasks. Some of those tasks could be tasks that take you 3 hours and would take someone else 30 minutes. And sometimes you look through that and just see, I am spending so much time doing things I don't want to do. Maybe it is time to bring in a VA in those certain areas. Or maybe you'll look at it and think, this isn't too bad. I think I'm doing pretty good. And then you can just wait until later. So there's now is the time. It does really just vary from person to person.
Usually with my clients, I say, if you feel like you're drowning, it's probably you're well past the time to bring a VA in.
And usually people, when they're ready to bring on a VA, it's I've been drowning for a while, and they're a little past due.
And I think too, I always say bring them on before you're drowning so that you don't drown. But also, people kind of have this assumption that they're going to bring their VA on and instantly it's going to lighten the load. And it's like, no, you have some onboarding process with all of that.
Yes.
How do you recommend people onboard a VA?
Yeah. So in an ideal world, which isn't usually the case, we recommend that first clients do that time study, but then they really spend a lot of time figuring out what it is that they want to offload. So based off that time study, there might be some ideas. Gay Hendricks wrote a book that's pretty popular in the online business world, but he talks about offloading tasking in your zone of competence and your zone of incompetence. So taking some time to think, what is something that's like my zone of genius that I should be the one doing, and then what is my zone of excellence, things that you're good at. Zone of competence are things that you can do, but you're not the best or fastest at, and incompetence is things that take you forever, and you aren't good at. So kind of considering that, and thinking through what it is that you are hoping to delegate, and then taking time and I do this on calls with some potential clients, but taking time to think through each of those tasks and what that looks like and what your preferences are, what programs or software you want them to be familiar with, and just kind of getting everything out into a document or whatever works for you. If you're more of an auditory person, and a video, anything that helps you kind of get a complete picture of who would be your ideal VA, because virtual assistant's a very broad word, and it could be just about anyone. So you're kind of helping get a good picture of who you want before you hire. And then when you do bring them onto your team, like you said, expect a painful couple of weeks. Painful might be the wrong word, but it's going to be a couple weeks of they aren't going to be able to just jump in and do tasks like the minute that they start with you. They have some questions to get to know what your preferences are. And if you have made standard operating procedures, you will love yourself. It will save so much time. So if you ever are thinking about bringing on a VA 6 months from now, start making standard operating procedures today. It will save you. And then just spending some time in the beginning, providing a lot of communication. I recommend in the beginning, this will get unnecessary after a while, but weekly or bi-weekly calls, just to make sure that you and your VA are on the same page. You're able to provide them the feedback that they need. Working virtually, they kind of have no idea if you're liking their work or not. So in the beginning, a lot of communication and a lot of feedback will help you to get on the same page. What else for onboarding? I highly recommend sharing the why. So helping your VA have some backstory, and help them know how they contribute really helps them with the big picture and really helps you to feel like they're a part of your team. I said feedback. There's no onboarding formula by any means, just because every business owner is different, every VA is different, and different things work better for you. If you are so swamped, you're not going to have time to walk your VA through every step, but definitely creating your SOPs if you can. And if not, ask your VA to make their SOPs as they're doing the tasks. And just helping them have a vision and helping them, I guess one other thing would be to be less focused on the process and more focused on the end result. So as your VA gets started, they may do things a little different than you would do them. But if the end result is the same or better, then consider at least listening to how they usually do it and see. A lot of VAs have a lot of experience and expertise. So allow them to provide that experience and expertise as long as it's getting to where you want it to be in the end product.
You mentioned that VA is a very broad term.
Yes.
And it very much is. What are some of the different, categories, I guess you could say, of a VA?
Sure. For us, at Alpine, we have 3 different categories, but I think it's much wider than that. So I think first is just your typical general virtual assistant, executive assistant, someone who is very meticulous with the details, a great communicator, very proactive, and can handle a lot of different tasking like email management, calendar management, admin tasks, essentially. And then you have your creative VAs, is kind of what I call them. That could be a social media manager. They're sometimes called virtual assistants, or it could be a VA who just makes graphics or creates landing and sales pages or marketing newsletters, or copywriting. Just a lot of your creatives would fall into that category. We personally, we have a third bucket where they're creative and admin. So there are some unicorns out there who love the detail, monotonous admin, executive assistant work. But they also really love using their creative brain to create graphics, and they really love marketing and that type of work. So there are some who do both. But I think it goes much wider than that. We have bookkeepers who could be considered virtual assistants, or podcast editors. They're all things that sometimes they have a specialized title, or sometimes they just fall under the label of virtual assistant. I think the sky's kind of the limit with the term. It's been used so broadly. Almost anyone who works from home to support other businesses, I think, can be considered a virtual assistant.
I know that a lot of people are really concerned, and they tend to hesitate on bringing in a support person because the role models they've had as leaders in the past, especially if they had worked in the corporate culture, was not toxic. It was toxic. It wasn't healthy. And so they don't want to bring on somebody because they don't want to replicate that. They don't want to be that kind of leader. And so they just don't bring on somebody. What is a good way of communicating with or delegating work, or just in general working with your VA?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think all leaders at some point are going to need to ask for help, to have someone support them. But it does get tricky having someone support you, but also you're so overwhelmed with all the things that you're doing, but you also have this support person that you want to be sure is treated well, and be sure that they're able to do the best work that they can. And so I think a lot of that comes down to when they make a mistake in the beginning. So I think when someone makes a mistake, it can be helpful to consider a few things. First, did they have what they needed from me to do this task properly? And how can we learn from this mistake? So in the beginning, considering, did I provide them everything that they needed, or do they have all the training that they need to do this properly? And then we can take it from there. How can we learn from it? Having some grace, at least in the very, very beginning with task 1, to learn how to handle that, how to move on from there. And remembering that mistakes are opportunities for improvement. So it can help you grow your team together. How you respond to mistakes is what makes or breaks team unity and communication. So when I was a beginning VA, I had a client. This is my first ever freelancing client, and I was editing an email marketing campaign for her. And I didn't really know the system as well as I thought I had, made a mistake and sent an email to all of her leads that was very obviously an unfinished canned email. Like, it was just obvious. And that was a detrimental mistake. It's just one of those mistakes that makes like your stomach just like drop. Like, it's just, and she responded very graciously to her clients and actually did not at all say, "I'm sorry, my VA made this mistake." And she made an Instagram post that was very graciously talking about just how mistakes happen and how you can't wait to be perfect in order to put yourself out there, still owning the mistake as her own. And she was very gracious with me about how do we move forward from here and how can I support you in learning this platform or provide you with training, or maybe you should do more training to learn this platform. But her response to me being so gracious, it made me at the end of the call go in and just fix everything that I could in the platform, make sure everything was running smoothly. She didn't micromanage from there. She didn't take the project back and own it as her own and just be like, never mind, you can't handle this. So how she was gracious with me made me then respond as a more dedicated team member, and made me go above and beyond to support her. So that's an example, but I would say just don't assume anything. Take the time to communicate and ask questions and give feedback right away. Don't let mistakes build. Don't automatically take tasks back. Help them see where they can improve. Because everyone will make mistakes. It's just, we're all human. It's going to happen at some point. So at least in the beginning, taking the time to ask those questions and think through those things with your VA. I think when mistakes start is when managers tend to get micromanagey or tend to get frustrated or tend to give up on team members. So if you take it from the beginning there, it will really help you treat your team members well.
What is something when you were a VA that you wished all your clients knew about your role as a VA?
Yeah, I think a lot of my clients, at least in the beginning, I will say it was a long time ago, and I think maybe culture has changed since then. But a lot of my clients saw me as a person who will do the work that I send to them. And that's great. But I wanted them to know that I had been doing this for a while. I do have something to add to the table. I'm passionate about your business. And if you put a little bit of trust in me, I would be able to really help you take off. So I think a lot of clients didn't allow me to be proactive. And that's really, VAs who are proactive can bring so much to their client's business. So if you allow your VA to be a team member and not just someone you're sending the tasks that you don't want to do, there's a lot of benefit there.
So when somebody has decided it is time for them to bring on a VA, how do they go about doing that? Because I know a lot of people are like, I don't even know where to start, because I get messages all the time. Do you know somebody? Where do I go? Mm-hmm. How do they get started? We know that they first need to figure out what tasks they are going to be giving up to a VA and asking a VA to help them with. But when they're ready to bring on a VA, how do they find one?
Sure. My first caution is just please don't go to a Facebook group and just write a really quick post of I need a VA to start tomorrow. DM me if interested. I have seen so many of those, and you will get about 75 to 500 comments on your post. and you will be overwhelmed, but you also won't have a way to qualify any of those VAs. There's a lot of different places you can find virtual assistants. You can ask someone that you know and trust. A lot of people have VAs, and so ask them if they know of any, or where they found their VA. Facebook groups, virtual assistant Facebook groups or business owner Facebook groups can be a great spot to find virtual assistants, as long as you have like a job document that kind of details everything that you're looking for, the tasking you have, who you are as a business, maybe an application link with at least a few solid questions to vet through people. Yeah, those two are the big ones. And then there are agencies as well who've kind of done the legwork of finding, vetting, and, going through the application process with VAs. So it does vary. There's a lot of different options to choose from. Just be sure that you know what you're looking for, and you don't want your VA to try to figure that out on their own.
So when somebody reaches out to you to bring on a VA, what does that process look like within Alpine Virtual?
Yeah, so they'll reach out to us. We usually have a few preliminary questions just to get a good idea, to make sure we're a good fit for them first. And then we'll typically get on a call with them where I have a series of questions that I ask them to get a good idea of who they are as a client and what their business is like and the types of tasks that they're looking for. It's like a 30-minute phone call. And they can ask, obviously, whatever questions they have. And then after the call, I'll take the information and type it all down into a document. And then I will share it with the VA on my team who I think would be the best fit for them. That VA can accept or decline any assignment. That way we're sure it's work that they're passionate about doing, a client they think they'd work well with, tasking that they agree that they're good at or they enjoy doing. Or maybe it can go down to they have the same preferred method of communication. Anything for that VA that lets them know, I think I'd be a good fit for this client, or I don't think I'd be a good fit for this client. If the VA accepts the assignment, then we will send the client a profile of that VA, and then we take it from there.
And when you hire a VA, are you hiring somebody on a retainer? Are you hiring hourly? How does that generally work?
Yeah, so we hire our VAs. They're working hourly on our end.
So if I was to come to you and say, I need a VA, but I don't know how many hours a month I'm going to need help for, would you be able to, even if I did a time audit, because sometimes this is a little different, would you be able to help them kind of figure out the best number of hours to have their VA?
That is probably 95% of the clients that come to us aren't entirely sure what they're needing hourly. Sometimes if they've had a VA before, then they have a good idea of what it may or may not be. But we do help them. We talk through in good detail all of the tasks that they're looking for and what their business is like. Sometimes it does come down to we'll do an hourly 1-month trial just so that they can get a good idea if there's just too many floating pieces and it's really ambiguous. But a lot of times I'm able to kind of give them a good estimate and then we'll run with that for month 1 and see how that fits for them. Sometimes I'll even bring the VA into the discussion that I'm recommending so that they can kind of brainstorm. I think that this would take me about this amount of time, and then we can take it from there.
If somebody was to come to you and say, I hired and paid for a VA for, 15 hours a month, but I really feel like they only produced 5 hours worth of work.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, some people work faster than other people at tasks. That's one thing. I'm a fast worker, and so I have to remember that I tend to get more done than some people. How would you respond to that?
Yeah, on our end, we have a time tracker that allows our VAs to track time and then put what they're working on, which it's kind of that time report that I was talking about at the beginning, it's kind of like that for the VA. It helps them create a full picture time study and see how long certain tasks take them. So we can always refer back to there. But I will say, like you said, a lot of times clients or even I think a task will take a certain amount of time in my head, and maybe it takes, sometimes it can go either way. Sometimes it'll take me an hour and I'll assign it to someone and it'll take them 15 minutes. And I don't understand how that happened. But other times it'll take me 15 minutes, or I think it would take me 15 minutes, but there's so many complexities to every task. Sometimes things come up, or maybe they're running Canva and it's glitchy and this one piece is moving in the wrong spot. There's so many just different complexities to each task where maybe it usually takes them 15 and this time it took them an hour. Or maybe I think it would take me 15, but then if I actually went to do it, I just grossly underestimated how long it would take me. So I would say just really be patient and don't be afraid to ask your VA if you have any questions or concerns. And usually they're more than happy to explain what's going on instead of you just not trusting them. They're not in your office. You can't walk past their desk and just see what they're doing. So having frequent and open communication will be a lifesaver. If you have any concerns, as soon as you have the concern, just bring it up with your VA.
What would be some of the benefits of working with an agency, and what would be maybe some of the downfalls with working with an agency?
Yeah, I don't think working with an agency is for everyone. For the downfalls, for some people, they really want to be able to go through the entire vetting process themselves. They want to be sure mentally that they have checked all the boxes that they want to check, and do all the legwork themselves to know I am very proud of this person that I brought on. And those type of people are not generally the best fit for an agency, because that is pretty much one of the big benefits of working with an agency. On the flip side, if you're not the person who wants to do all the legwork, so for an example, I've been a VA for 11 years, so I kind of understand the VA world, and now I'm a business owner, so I understand the business world. And so I go through a very extensive 5-step vetting process of really making sure that our team members are qualified quality virtual assistants. And that's a lot of work. So it could be a positive, and for some, it could be more of a negative for others. But that's one. Another advantage is with some agencies, they provide fill-ins for sick days or vacation days or anything like that. We provide a fill-in. We have our virtual assistants tracking standard operating procedures so that we can provide a fill-in if someone is sick or out. Another advantage is the VA is not only are they a part of your team, but they're a part of our team, and they have resources to pull from. So agencies provide VAs with like learning lunches where they have different trainings. That your VA is held to a certain standard with that agency. That it's almost like calling a reference, like that they've worked with multiple other clients and that they're skilled and they've been doing quality work for other people. That's probably the gist of it. It really just depends on who you are as a business owner and what your preferences are, as to if one would be a good fit for you versus the other. I guess another potential con would be It is harder to hire a VA from the agency to work for you full-time. So it is possible, but if becoming a full-time employee is your goal that you want to work them towards, it's something that can be done through agencies, but it might, if you know now that's your long-term goal for that one VA, it might be best to go with a freelancer and let them know up front so that they can work towards that goal with you.
And maybe we can touch on that a little bit, is the difference between your VA who is going to be brought on as a contractor versus somebody who is brought on as an employee. And the VA, you are actually the client of the VA. What is kind of the difference there, and how should people approach that?
That is a great question. I don't think a lot of business owners realize the difference between a contractor and an employee, which can create some frustration between the two. A contractor is like you said, you are their client. They are not your employee. So a contractor usually will come in with the tools that they need. So they already have a laptop or whatever is needed. You'll need to provide, like, if you want them to do work in Canva Pro, you may need to provide them a login, but they have the computer and the tools that they need. They are already skilled and experienced. So while they can up their skills in certain areas, they already have the basic skills and experience needed. And they are able to work when they want to work, which I think is the main frustration. So for an example, on our end, our VAs will respond within a 2-hour time frame, but they're not available for immediate tasking because they are not an employee. So we have had clients in the beginning of our agency days who have tried to have us have a VA who's available and responding within 3 minutes to their task. We had a client who was frustrated with us once because it took their VA, I think they said 7 minutes to respond, which that's at the point you need an employee.
I would argue you might have a hard time. If an employee is actually doing their work, they may not be able to respond in 7 minutes. If they go to the bathroom or
exactly. Yeah. You need much more than an employee, but at minimum, you need an employee. So a lot of times clients will want a virtual assistant to be available around the clock whenever I need you, respond quickly, get the task done now. But contractors have multiple different clients. And so they will be potentially in a meeting with another client or doing work for another client. And just like you wouldn't want someone doing work for you and then stopping to go finish this thing for another client really quickly and then trying to come back in and get their brain back where it was. I think the big difference is just respecting your contractor's time and knowing that they are available and they do value you as a client, but they are not available right here, right now, and kind of managing your expectations around that will help your relationship immensely. For some clients, it does require some forethought, which is a learning experience to learn how to think farther ahead, especially when you're overwhelmed. It's hard to think past like the next hour. But if you're able to think like 24 hours in advance and be able to have that forethought, it will save you and your VA's relationship immensely.
I had a client, wonderful client, but she always struggled to delegate things to me. And then I couldn't fulfill the hours in the contract and things along those lines. And she started to see that it was like, oh, when I do my projects at the last minute, then I don't have the ability to turn anything over to my VA because there is no time frame. And, if I'm working on it Friday night for a Monday morning presentation, what I can't expect that she's going to be able to assist me with that. So,
right.
Yeah, if you're already overwhelmed, but yes, you need to kind of start planning ahead, which is actually a very nice thing when you do have a VA on hand, because you do start to be able to be more proactive as opposed to reactive in your life.
Yeah.
Is there anything that we didn't cover about bringing on support, working with VAs, working with an agency that you'd like for us to make sure we talk about?
I will say a frequent problem that I've seen is clients who know that they need support, but they are so perfectionistic. And I get it because this is their business. This is like representing them. But they're so perfectionistic that they struggle to be able to hand off a task to a VA because they aren't sure that their VA can do it as well as they can or anything like that. And so I heard a really great rule of thumb if you're a perfectionist, which is if the person that you're asking to perform a task can do it at least 70% as well as you can, you should delegate it. So not everyone can do everything as well as you can, but the rule of thumb, which I've found to be helpful because I can tend to be a perfectionist as well, is like think through if they can do it 70% as well as you can, you should delegate it. And then when they give you the whatever back, provide the feedback, be very open and communicating, and your relationship will only grow from there. But if you're hoarding a task and you're never handing it off, you'll never be able to get the support that you need there, and you're kind of holding on to being overwhelmed. I'd say that's a very common problem that I've seen, because it is hard to delegate when you are a perfectionist, speaking from experience.
Same. Yeah. I have to teach myself that I can produce B- work and nobody's going to notice. It's going to look like A work to them.
Right. So. I could sit in Canva all day and just make little adjustments. And my husband was like, at some point, you just need to be done. Yeah. It looks fine. I was like, but it could look better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So where can everybody find you?
Sure. So I am pretty active on Instagram. My handle is just Alpine Virtual. And then it's pretty simple, that or our website, which is just alpinevirtual.com.
Thank you so much for being here today.
Of course. Thank you.
And that's it for another episode of Here's What I Learned. Show notes and transcripts can be found at JackieHayes.online. While you're there, be sure to subscribe to my emails to receive access to my free launch resource library. Inside the library, you'll find all the resources I use with my launch strategy VIP day clients to create their strategic, intentional, and hustle-free launches. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow and leave a review. Until next time,